Hey everybody, so it's time for NHL Games of the Week, where I look ahead at the upcoming week in the NHL and pick out what I think will be the best and most exciting games to watch. Before we get into the video, I just quickly want to remind everyone to please hit that like button and give this video a thumbs up. It greatly helps out the channel. And if you're new, to please subscribe and follow along for all my hockey content this season and all year round. So, short week this week as far as number of days with games, because there are no games on the 24th, 25th, or 26th for the Christmas break. However, that does not mean it's a short week as far as games of the week goes, because on the days that do have games this week, there are a ton of fantastic matchups. So let's get into it here. Starting with today, Sunday the 22nd. We have Calgary versus Dallas in what's a very, very important Western Conference matchup there between teams very close in the standings, very similar in points, and that's just going to be a big game for both of those teams with two very important points on the line. Also tonight is Vegas versus San Jose for the final time, I believe, this season. This is their fourth time playing already this year. So two major rivals, absolutely, massive matchup. This is it. This is going to be the last time we get to see them play each other for a while, because it certainly doesn't seem like they're going to be meeting in the playoffs this year, as San Jose is all but out of it at this point. So the December, no, they don't play again in the second half, which kind of sucks, but it's their fourth meeting already this season, and it should be a really exciting game as always when those two teams play. They absolutely hate each other, and despite San Jose not being nearly as good as anyone thought this season, when these two teams play, it's going to be an exciting game no matter what. Moving on now to the 23rd, which is the last day of games before the Christmas break. We have Washington versus Boston, which obviously a tremendous matchup there between two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Washington beats Boston every time, so it's kind of fun to go into that game wondering if this is going to be the time that Boston finally wins. But 16 of the last 17 games now between these two teams, the Capitals have won. So that's an interesting stat for sure. But still, they play very, very exciting games against each other, very close games against each other, very physical games against each other, everything you want in a hockey game. Boston and Washington is a fantastic A-plus matchup every time. We also have Florida versus Tampa Bay in a huge Atlantic Division game. They're very, very close in the standings, both fighting for playoff position. In-state rival, division rival. That's a great matchup, and that's going to be a great game. And it's even bigger now that there's so much on the line with where everyone's at in the standings and in the playoff race going on in the Atlantic Division. Panthers versus Lightning on Monday night is going to be an absolute blast. Another rivalry game, we have the New York Rangers versus the Philadelphia Flyers on Monday. Obviously, that's a long-standing NHL rivalry, division rivalry. Rangers are, fighting to keep their playoff hopes alive and stay within striking distance in the Metro. Philly is in the playoffs right now. They're looking to maintain a playoff position. That New York is probably the team that's coming for it. So a big game for both of these teams on top of the natural rivalry. That should be a fantastic matchup. Later, we have Edmonton versus Vancouver that night in a incredibly important Pacific Division matchup. Vancouver kind of falling back, kind of out of things now. They need to turn things around quickly if they're going to get back into a playoff position. They've not had a good last few weeks, and they're falling a little bit behind now. Edmonton, they've also kind of struggled at times. They're looking to maintain a playoff position in that Pacific Division. Very, very stacked up right now on top of each other. So that's a huge game for both of those teams. And lastly, we have Colorado versus Vegas, two of the top teams in that Western Conference. Vegas is looking to be a team that goes on a deep playoff run. Colorado looking to be a team that goes on a deep playoff run. Could be a potential playoff matchup this season down the line later in the playoffs. We'll find out, obviously. But that's just a great matchup between two great teams. So then we have no games on the 24th, 25th, or 26th because of the break, as I said. And we come back the 27th, Friday, with Boston versus Buffalo. Huge matchup, first time meeting this season. Buffalo looking to maintain a playoff spot. Boston, top of that division. Rivalry game, just really big points on the line for both of those teams. Minnesota versus Colorado, Central Division matchup, usually a lot of fun when those two teams meet up, or really when any teams from the Central meet up. It's a really good divisional game. But Colorado looks like one of the best teams in the league. Minnesota fighting for a playoff spot. This is going to be a big game for both of them. St. Louis versus Winnipeg. Again, huge rivalry there. They met in the playoffs last year. Winnipeg is fighting for a playoff spot. St. Louis looks pretty locked in already. They're the top team in that division right now. But that's a huge game between teams that do not like each other very much at all. So St. Louis versus Winnipeg is a fantastic matchup. And then Calgary versus Edmonton, the Battle of Alberta. I don't think I need to say any more than that. What an incredible rivalry that burst into again last year after not being that great for a few years. Really got heated last season. I think it's probably going to again, especially given the fact that these two teams are so close in the standings. And there's massive points on the line as well. So that's probably the game of the week that I would be looking at as probably going to be the best game. I think it's going to be a incredibly exciting and fun game to watch between the Oilers and Flames. And then lastly, moving on to Saturday, we've got a bunch more on Saturday. Colorado versus Dallas on teams very close in the standings, two good teams. Again, division rivals, huge game there. Big 2 points on the line. Montreal versus Tampa Bay. That game's got big-time playoff implications. We know the Atlantic Division now is really stacked on top of each other. It's the middle of that division. Montreal and Tampa Bay are two of the teams right in the thick of that playoff race. Huge game, and that's going to be a big win for whoever wins that. Washington versus Carolina. They met in the first round of the playoffs last year. Both teams are good. Carolina's holding strong this season. Washington's the best team in the league this year. And they're meeting up. I expect that to be a really fun game to watch. And finally, Arizona versus Vegas in a massive Pacific Division showdown. First place could be on the line depending on how the rest of the week before that goes. But that could be a game for first place in the Pacific Division. Just two good teams and two division rivals are going to play really important games against each other. So those are my games of the week for this week. We got quite a few of them despite not having games 3 out of the 7 days this week. But anyway, I will be watching as many of those as I possibly can. I hope you guys get the chance to watch some as well. There are a lot of great matchups and very important matchups this week in the NHL. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.